Welcome back. So this should be the last tutorial in this tutorial series. So we're going to make a title scene so that the player doesn't just start off right in the game. They get to see the title. Maybe they'll get some instructions. Why are they playing the game? What's the goal? And of course, press a key to actually play the game. Alright, so first thing you want to do is go to your dashboard, go to Scenes, click to create a scene. We want to make this scene the exact same settings, the dimensions, as our other scene. So before we click OK, if we open up our level 1, we can go here to the Properties button. And under Properties you can see how many tiles, high and wide it is. If you click on tiles you can change it to pixels, and that's something you want to do because we're going to actually make a background image pretty soon. So 320 by 480 is what I'm looking at. Okay, so go ahead and call this title. Change it to pixels and make sure it's 320 by 480. That's good. I'll go ahead and I'll choose black. Choose maybe a dark blue. We'll see what that looks like. Hit create. And there we go. Okay, so that's all good. Okay, so now you could go ahead and you could start putting things in here. You could put some actors in here if you wanted to put your ship or an enemy in here just to start decorating. You could do that. What I'm going to simply do is I'm going to use an image editor. We'll be using Krita to actually put in a background and actually do our text through an image editor. So we won't be using Stencil's font system. So, okay, so we'll be using Krita. This is what I use in my class. It's free, and you could use Photoshop or something else like that, but you can't beat free. Okay, so we're going to go to Krita, and we're going to do, if you see this screen, you can click on New File. If you don't see this screen, you can just come up here to the File menu and just choose New, and you get the exact same thing. You're going to type in your width and your height. It needs to match. In this case, it's 320 by 480. Click on Create, and there's your screen right there. Okay, so now that once you have your canvas, you can go ahead and you can start decorating and drawing and doing whatever you want. Do all your backgrounds. You can add in layers over here, so you can do some different things. And there we go. Okay, so what I've done is I basically have brought in my backgrounds from my actual game. It's the same one, and I basically copied and pasted these in here. And I'll just show you real quickly how to do one of those so you can follow along if you want to, or you can make it from scratch. So here's my blank one, and what I would do is I would do File, Open, and I would go navigate to one of them. So I'll open up this background here. Okay, and then I would press on a Mac, I would press Command A, and that would select all of it. And you can see, hopefully you can see the little selection dashed lines going around it. Then I'd press Command C. Okay, so Command A to select all, Command C to copy. And then up here at the top, you'll actually see these little tabs, kind of like your web browsing. And you go find the tab here that's empty, and I'll press Command V, and I would paste it. And there you see it pastes in there. Now you can move this up and down because this is actually a very big, tall layer here. So if I want to move it, I'm going to come over here and click on this tool here, which is called the Move tool, and I can just click and drag it up and down and kind of find, where I want it to be. And that's it right there. And you can see it comes in as a layer. So all I did was I brought in all three of them again, and then I made my first layer, I just made that black. So that way it fills in quite nicely. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and close these here. Oops. Okay, so now I'll show you how to do text and then how to bring it into stencil. Okay, so you'll see that I only have one layer here. I'm going to go ahead and rename that. We'll just call that BG for background. Okay, so the text tool is right up here. Text tool, and Krita does it a little bit differently than other programs. So what you do is you do text tool, then you left click and you drag out a rectangle for where you think you want it to go, and then you give it a little bit of a moment, and I'm going to recommend you drag this window off to the side here. You'll see your text here, it's black. We're going to want to change that immediately. So I'll go ahead and I'll try kind of a light blue color here. Alright, so you have two tabs down here. You have SVG source and you want rich text. We want rich text. And I'm going to go ahead and change this. It puts a little bit of lorem ipsum text, which is based on Latin. So you're going to select that, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to call this, I'm going to call it Space Blasters! Exclamation mark. Okay, and you won't see anything changing here because you have to hit save, and then you'll see that it hit save. And you'll see that it didn't quite take my color change, and that's because I have to select it and then make the change and then hit save, and now you can see the colors change. So you do have to have your text selected. I'll go ahead and bump that up. I'll try 36. There we go, that's looking better. 48. Okay, so you'll see that 288 that's obviously too big. You can type in a bigger number here, like I could type in 400 if I wanted to. And it looks like it won't quite go that far, so I'll have to see what can be done about that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just go with, I'm going to try 64. Okay, so 64 seems to be, yeah, pretty darn good. Okay, you can change your font by going here, and you've got all of the different system fonts. Now if you watch my previous video, I had another font that I use for my victory text, and that was called, I believe it was called Algol. And if you look closely in your list here, you might not see your font that you used inside your game. And the reason why you're not seeing it is because to be able to see it in this list, you actually have to install that font into your operating system. And so for my students, if that's something you really want to do, talk to me and I will show you how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and then I'll go ahead and hit close. And now I want to move this around, so it is a layer up here. I'm going to go ahead and double click on it and call it title. There we go. And then I'm going to use the move tool right here, and I can just move it around up and down. And I'm going to go ahead and just put it right here at the top. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and put in at least one more text box that tells them to press the letter P to play the game. So if I click on the text tool here, and I click and I drag out a box, you'll see that it puts another text box here. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to type in text 2 just so you guys can see this. Make it a brighter color. And hit save. Okay, so you'll notice that I have a second text box, but if you look over here in my layers, you'll notice that you don't see a new layer get created. And that's because what's happened is that it's joined together in the same thing. And that can be problematic. So what do? And if I click and I drag again with the text box, you'll see that it actually created another one. So now I'm in a little bit of trouble here. So let me figure this out and I'll come back. Okay, so the only way each time you click and you drag, it creates a new text box, which could be handy, I guess, if you know that you're going to have that happen. The only way that I figured out how to delete this text, and if I'm wrong or you have a better way, you figure out a better way, please talk to me in class if you're one of my students, or put it in one of the comments below. So when you get to this text box, if you select the text here, just press delete and hit save, and that will then disappear. So again, double click the box to get into the editor, select the text, hit delete, then hit save, and then it goes away. Okay, So what do? How do we make a second layer so I can move it around and be safe? So what you're going to do is you're going to come down here. You need to make a new layer. So I'm going to come down here, and next to this new layer button there's a little tiny downward arrow. And what you want is you want this one here called a vector layer. So if I click on vector layer, you'll see that it pops up, and if you look really closely, it's got this special symbol here. And so now this says layer 2. So now that I've got layer 2 selected, I can now come back here to the text tool, drag out my text tool, and there it goes. It gets created just like it usually does, but it's on a second layer. So now I can go ahead in here and I can go ahead and say, press P to play. Go ahead and change it to a lighter color, tiny bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm not crazy happy with the font, but I'm going to go ahead and just leave it like that. And because it's a separate layer, I can now go ahead and move it around and something like that. So I'd probably want to put this maybe down at the bottom. And then in the middle here, this is where normally you would go ahead and you'd have probably some images to get the player interested in the game. You'd have some directions where you get them excited about the game, like you can go ahead and say, you know, welcome commander to the game. This is your task. This is your mission. You can go ahead and give them instructions on how to move and how to shoot, and what the goal is. You know, destroy 3 aliens to win the game, something like that. So I'm going to leave this space blank just to finish this tutorial, but you should put something here to really make this something awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this, and then let's assume that I'm done. I'm going to now do File, and I'm going to do Save As, and I'm going to change this from a CRITA document, and I'm going to change it to a PNG, and I'm going to go ahead and I could leave it as the same name, Title Scene BG, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the word Final in there, so that way it's a little bit easier for me to see. There we go. And CRITA opens up with this. Just click on OK. Alright, very good. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to Stencil. I'm going to go to my dashboard, Backgrounds, and I'm going to actually load it in as a background. And so I'll just call this background Title BG. Hit Create. That was my wife blowing her nose. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Frame, choose Image, and I'm going to go find my stuff. Okay, here we go. Let's finish up. Okay. Alright, so this is the graphic here. I'll go ahead and bring it in. Comes in, looks pretty good. We'll hit Add, and I'm not going to put any scrolling on it. I don't want any animation or anything like that. Okay, so I could choose Attach to Scene right there, and actually put it in here. So I could go back and do that. The other way you can do it is just come down here to Layers, click on Add and say New Background Layer, and then just add it in there, and there you go. Okay. Alright, so there it is right there. Now all I need to do is set up the code that actually does this P to play. So I'm going to go here to Settings, I'm going to go to Controls, and I'm going to make a new control. And I'm going to go ahead and call this one Play. Press the letter P, say OK. Alright, so now I'm going to go to Events, Add Input. There we go. I'm going to say Keyboard and choose the control. The control is Play. Alright. Okay, so now it's all set up that says when play is pressed, it's going to do something. So I want to go to the Scenes category, and under Scenes, I want to go to Game Flow. And you can see right here, under Transitions, it says Switch to Scene, and so I've got a couple of choices here. So I'm going to choose this top one here. And this is identical to the one we had for Reload. So I'm going to go ahead and say Switch to Scene, and I'm going to choose the scene. I only have one other scene to do, but you have to do that step, otherwise doesn't work out. I'm going to choose blur out, choose how many seconds it takes. We'll do a 1 second. I can choose the color. Actually, I think I'll choose black. I'm going to do blur out again for 1 second. Now, you have to go through and fill out all of these little choices here. Otherwise, Stencil will give you an error when you try to test your game. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and I'll come back when it is loaded up, and we'll see if it works. Okay, so when you reload your game, you'll notice that it does this. So what gives? There we go. So what gives? Well, if we go back to Stencil, something I forgot to do is that if I go back to my dashboard and scenes, you'll notice that there's a little star in the upper left-hand corner, and that star tells Stencil which scene is the starting scene. So what I need to do is I need to select my title scene, and down here in the bottom right-hand corner, click on Mark as Starting Scene, and you'll see that the star shifts. Okay, so there we go. It has loaded, and it loaded the correct scene, and now if I press the letter P, it's probably going to lag, and then it will do the transition, and then it transitions me to another scene. So that's pretty cool. And let's just do this. So the only thing, this game is way too easy right now. The only thing that can really hurt me are these glowing spheres, because I can't destroy them, but I can destroy the aliens and I can destroy the asteroids. So definitely gonna have to make the game more challenging to make it more fun. But that's pretty much it. One final thought that I'll give you is that this block right here, the switch to scene block, is really powerful. I mean, you can make that switch to another scene when anything else happens. When the player kills the enemy, you can go to a boss battle. You could, when a collision is detected, you could have it switch to another scene. You could have your actors be teleported to another scene. It's really, really powerful. You could have them actually collect a key or a power-up if they touch it, and then it teleports them or switches them to a different scene. So you can do some really fun, creative stuff with that. So I encourage you to try collisions. You could have a power-up come floating down the level, and when they collect it, maybe their ship changes. That would be a challenge to figure out. And then they go to a different scene. So a lot of really neat possibilities just with this one block. Alright, so I hope you've enjoyed this project, and I will see you around next time. Thank you.